Hello, my name's Louis and I love whiskey, and for that reason I'm going to be reviewing a few whiskies of mine that I have collected over the last year or so. I originally wasn't so sure about doing these reviews because there are so many whiskey reviewers out there in print and online, and I thought to myself, well, there's enough information out there for people to know what they want to know about whiskey. But it then occurred to me that there are no absolutes when it comes to whiskey, so there's no right or wrong answer, and it never hurts to have another opinion. So I'm going to be reviewing just a few of the whiskies that I own as a kind of guide for people who are wanting to get into whiskey. So I'm going to start with a blended whiskey because they're easier to get your head round in terms of smelling, tasting and rating. And before I start, I just need to apologise for the type of glass I'm using. I knew that if I didn't make this point now, there'd be people on YouTube telling me which glass I need to use, and I do have a Glencairn glass that I'm planning to get, and hopefully if I do another whiskey review I will have the Glencairn glass, time and money pending. And also because of the fact that I'm using my laptop camera, I can't get the right angles. If I angle it down at my desk, you can't see my face, so I'm having to use some Air Pilot's manuals to prop up the glass so you can see it. So I'm going to start with a slightly expensive blended whiskey, probably one of the most expensive blended whiskies you can find on the high street. It is supposedly, as far as I'm aware, the world's best-selling blended Scotch whiskey, and it is none other than Johnnie Black Label. So here it is. It's a step up from Red Label, and it's made from around 40 different malts and grains. And you'll notice here that it has a 12-year age statement written on it. Now, a quick thing about the age statement. This represents the youngest malt in the blend. So some distillers prefer to omit the age statement because they don't want their whiskey to be judged by its youngest malt. So let's open it up. It's a fairly nice bottle, nothing particularly fancy, and here's the iconic square bottle with the angled sticker. It's apparent from looking at the bottle that they've probably added caramel to this, and I believe it's chill filtered as well, I think. So I'm going to do this review in 4 stages: the nose, the arrival, the palate and the finish, and then I'll finish the review off with a rating, my own personal score. So I'm going to pour a glass, not too much. I've got work early tomorrow morning. So the nose. Well, the first thing that strikes me is that it's quite well rounded, it's quite balanced, there's no particular malt that jumps up and tries to make itself known. There's a little bit of peat, a little bit of smoke, a bit of dried fruit, and also, funnily enough, contrasting to the sort of mellow oakiness, there's also a very refreshing sour apple smell to it. Not apple sours, but fresh apple, if you get my gist. So yeah, surprisingly refreshing. So I'm going to go ahead and taste it and tell you what I think. Okay. So at first there's a big alcohol kick which goes all the way through your head. A bit like the kick you get from Jack Daniels, dare I say. Which is a bit disappointing at first, considering the reputation the blend has. But that kick is very short-lived, and once you get over it, you're immediately greeted with this very creamy, smooth, peaty, oaky arrival. Nothing massively intense, but it's very pleasant and quite easygoing. And there's also quite a strong sweetness to it, not a unpleasant saccharine sweetness, but a more subdued, easygoing sweetness, like a treacle toffee flavour. So the palate is definitely quite lingering, and very enjoyable. As for the finish, there isn't really much of a finish. It's kind of clipped off. The flavours don't develop once you've swallowed the whiskey, and it just fades out. Now, I'd usually at this stage add a drop of water to the whiskey, maybe because this is 40%, maybe just 1 teaspoon. But I'm not actually going to add any water to this because I have heard from several sources that adding water to Black Label doesn't really do anything for the blend. And on a previous tasting of this, I did actually add some water just to see what I thought, and it doesn't really change the flavour. It just becomes weaker and it becomes a little bit bitter. So I wouldn't recommend adding water to this. I would prefer it straight, even though it's got the alcohol kick. I prefer it completely neat. So final thoughts. I do think it lives up to its reputation. I think it's worth the money, but I think it's important to note that there are good single malts for less than £27, so just be aware of that. It is quite expensive, but it is very nice. It is a very good, very smooth blend. And now I would have given it 90%. I was wanting to give it 90%, but I'm gonna deduct a few marks for a few things. Firstly, the fact that it does have caramel added to it, and it's doesn't really mean a great deal to the whiskey taster, but it's something that I don't really get, and I think the distillers do it to make it look more appetizing, and I don't really see the point. Also, the fact that it's chill filtered, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's chill filtered, which does remove some of the taste as well. And the fact that it has that little alcohol kick at the beginning, which isn't particularly pleasant. So I'm going to deduct a few marks. I'm going to give it 87%, which is still a very good mark. But obviously what matters is what you think of it. So I will recommend this whiskey. It's a very good blend. And hopefully, if I continue doing these reviews, I will I will review another Johnnie Walker blend, and that will be Green Label. I won't be reviewing Red Label for obvious reasons, as it is not a sipping whiskey, and I won't be reviewing Gold or Blue simply because they're too expensive. So I hope you enjoyed this review. I hope it was helpful to you, and I'll hopefully see you again soon with a proper whiskey glass. So cheers, enjoy.